Okay. So training and development. By the end of this lecture, it is expected that you should be able to explain the concept of training and differentiate it from development. Then you should also be able to explain the strategic issues which are necessitating for frequent changes in the way training and development initiatives are carried out in organizations. So we will look at a number of these strategic issues. Then we will also learn about the fact that training and development initiatives do not need to center on only employees that have been in the company for a longer period of time, but it can equally be strategically tailored to target new entrants. New entrants. These are essentially new employees that are joining the company for the first time and may not have comprehensive understanding of the culture and the ways things are done in the company. So this can be strategically done through either elaborate orientation and job rotation, which we will look at later on. Then thereafter, the remaining ones are the ones that we learned in level 300. So the various typologies of training, the training process, the first stage training process, and finally, how you can evaluate a training program. So let's look at them. So from week 1, a cardinal emphasis that I have been laying in my lectures is that employees are construed to be vital assets that organizations can rely on to achieve their long-term expectations. And because of this vital assets perception of employees, it is equally expected that organizations will continually invest in these assets to maintain their value. Now, if organizations consider its employees to be vital assets, training and development can thus be construed to be representing an ongoing investment in these assets. So just as in the world of accounting and finance, we constantly try to add value to depreciating fixed or current assets. For the purpose of humans, we rather add value to them. And one way of doing that is to be training and developing them. Other ways of adding value may be enhancing their performance, so through performance management systems, and also through the reward management strategy that you initiate. So what then is training? Training can be construed as any educational initiative which allow employees to acquire knowledge and learning skills that can be readily used immediately. So anytime an attempt is made to enhance the knowledge and skills of employees to be applied on the current job that they are doing, then we are referring to training. For that reason, the duration of training tends to be shorter because it is something that you need to acquire at a faster pace so that you can apply to solve present problems. And beyond the duration, the quantum of the training content also tend to be narrow, because we are talking about a shorter period of time, maybe 1 day workshop, or maybe a 1 week. It may just be 3 days. Now, if you compare training to development, we can say that development involves learning that will aid the organization and its employees much later in the career ladder of the employee. So in terms of the focus, development focuses on not only what employees are currently doing, but it also prepares them for what the future holds. Unlike training that tends to focus on what employees are immediately or currently doing. In the same vein, because development has a futuristic component attached to it, it also seeks to have a long-term time horizon. So the duration tends to be longer, unlike development that tends to be what? Unlike training that tends to be shorter. And in terms of the scope, development tends to be career tailored. So for that reason, it tends to be broader, and it could be likened to going for a 4-year university degree program, unlike the training exercises that may take place within a day or two. Having explained and differentiated these two elements that we will be touching on for the rest of the day, how does training and development become strategic? So training and development strategies ensure that organizations have talented and skilled people in needs, and the individuals are given the opportunity to enhance their knowledge and skills and levels of competence. And strategic human resource development. So when we say strategic human resource development, we are essentially referring to organizational initiatives that tend to handle the training and development needs of the workforce to align them with the changing needs of the business environment. So if the current skills set of the workforce is not in tune with the current best practices, then it is expected that training and development initiatives are strategically rolled out to rightfully align the expertise and competence of employees to what it is expected of them to be utilizing and working. So strategic human resource development involves introducing, eliminating, modifying, directing, and guiding processes in such a way that all individuals and teams are equipped with the skills, knowledge, and competencies they require to undertake current and future tasks required by the organization. So in order to maintain a working core or a working class that has what it takes to make an organization much more competitive in a turbulent business environment, it is necessary that this core of employees are constantly directed, they are constantly educated or nurtured to be abreast with the current state of their profession. So this may require the elimination of an obsolete way of working, which may not attain desirable results. This may also require the introduction of a much superior way of working. And this may require a modification of an existing one as a result of maybe integrating technology with the way the work is done. Now, all these things have to be strategically done so that it does not affect the current production activities of the company. And once you do this, we say you are executing strategic human resource development, which is also an emerging area of specialization. Employee training and development as a strategic issue. So we are now going to look at a number of issues that has necessitated for the strategic approach or the strategic elements of training and development. In other words, why is it necessary for organizations to be carrying out their training and development initiatives in a strategic manner? There are certain factors which are propelling it. And we are going to look at a number of them, which I must quickly add that they are examinable. So when I say they're examinable, you should understand in plain sight and in plain language what I mean by that. So the first one is that due to rapid changes in technology, when the way work is done is not also aligned with these rapid changes, then it can affect an organization's success story. In other words, rapid changes in technology continue to cause increases in skills, some skills becoming obsolete. In other words, if you do not align yourself or integrate technology with the way you deliver your services, then you may realize that among your peers, if you compare yourself to your peers, you may be coming across as an organization that is more colloquial or old-fashioned, and that is not able to work effectively or efficiently because you are stuck with a traditional way of working. And to remain competitive, organizations need to continue to train their employees to use best and latest technology available. Managing in such a turbulent environment has created the need to continuously learn among managers. So we are saying in this first particular bullet is that one reason which is strategically requiring organizations to have in place a continuous learning system is due to the need for them to continually align with the current pace of technology so that they will not come across as an obsolete or a colloquial firm that is failing to evolve with the changing needs of the cutting-through competitive environments. The second issue, which is also informing the need for training and development to be carried out in a strategic manner, is the redesign of work into jobs having broader responsibilities that are often part of self-managed teams and which requires employees to assume more responsibilities, start initiatives, and further develop interpersonal skills to ensure their performance and success. So essentially, employees need to acquire broader skills base and be provided with the developmental opportunities that can assist them to work in teams, in collaborations, and also in conflict management. Now, due to the restructuring which is ensuing across the length and breadth of organizations in the business environments. And when I say restructuring, a lot of firms are either merging, in fact, some construe it as downsizing, others construe it as right sizing. And this may result in situations whereby we may have a flatter organizational structure instead of a tall organizational structure. So a tall organizational structure will be the kind of structure that has a lot of reporting lines embedded in it. But once it becomes flatter, it simply means the long chain of command is broken. The unbridled line of reporting and communicating is broken, whereby you may have just one person supervising a much broader base. And such interventions or introductions, as far as organizational restructuring is concerned, may require employees to work in a collaborative and cooperative manner instead of almost always reporting to your superior to get things done. So that requires continual learning in avenues such as team working or building interpersonal skills of employees so that they can work in this new environment and accommodate each other. The third reason is that mergers and acquisition have greatly increased, and Ghana is also witnessing some of these changes. And these activities require integrating employees of one organization to the other and having a vastly different culture altogether. So when Airtel and Tigo merged, it did not mean that the Airtel workforce that were being brought to under the Airtel and Tigo workforce that were being brought under the same umbrella were supposed to be glued to their previous organizational culture. Rather, they needed to forge a different cultural environment that will accommodate each of these workforce that were being brought together to work to improve the loss of the company. So for some of these reasons, continual training and development may be the way to forge this new culture that can help accommodate the two categories of workforce that are being brought together. Now, usually when financial and performance results of mergers and acquisition activity fall short of plans, the reason usually rests on people management system rather than operational or financial management system. And to actually drive people management system well to achieve enviable results, it is usually attained through training and development. So if you have an intention of embarking on either mergers or acquisition, it means that before you even roll it out, you must have a properly thought through training or development initiatives that can be utilized in managing the people or the employees that you'll be bringing together in a more harmonious manner to create a culture that best fits the new organization you'll be creating out of the mergers. The fourth reason, which is also necessitating for employee training and development in a strategic manner, has to do with the degree to which employees are moving from one employer to another with far more frequency than they did in the past. Now, this may be contextually true. So, whereas in the developed world and in most in most flourishing African countries, this may be particularly true. In African economies where scarcity of job keeps skyrocketing, then this may not be a realistic issue. Now, so the point over here is that firms have realized that employees tend to be loyal to only companies that tends to invest in them through training and development. And employees also tend to be very much concerned about their own lot, where they can work and become much more happy. So with less loyalty to a particular employer and more to employees' own career success, more time must be spent on integrating the new hires into the workplace. In other words, companies that are able to flourish in turbulent business environments that has a lot of cutting-throat competition in there are the ones that are able to accept this reality that if you take a sober look at employees, they tend to be very much self-centered. So anytime you get them, you have to rather group them to a particular level that you want in order to get the best out of them. Because no matter what you do, if you are not able to meet their needs and their level of motivation, they will still leave to join your competitors who may be willing to pay much more. So for that reason, you must also be ready to be training new people that may join your company for some time in order to get the best out of them. And which is also an issue we'll be looking at, the strategy that can be used to facilitate how new entrants can be properly integrated into the center stage of organizational success. Now, the issue of globalization is also pulling or pushing businesses to become a learning organization. And this is very much important because as we usually say, the world is becoming a global village. And if you are not knowledgeable about what is happening elsewhere, but you are fixated with only the happenings within your country, then you may lose out of the turbulent competition which is out there. Because these days, competition is not only between or among firms within a given country or given geographical area, but companies that are able to emerge and enjoy competitive advantage are the ones that are able to see this global picture and take advantage of it while they minor their weaknesses. In other words, they are able to capitalize on opportunities that exist beyond their market of operation. And they are also able to see such opportunities whilst they are able to negate the threats within this competition. So globalization is also necessitating business operations to require managers that acquire knowledge and skills which are relevant to survive in such a global village. And this may require the acquisition of some language skills, as we did in international HRM, and also the appreciation of cultural differences, so that if you have to deal with individuals originating from different cultural contexts, then you will be in a position to understand their sentiments and their style of thinking. And once you appreciate it, you will not come across as a manager that tends to be ethnocentric. Now, the need to attain competitive advantage is also a strategic issue which is necessitating for continual training and development. So as organizations compete to gain competitive advantage in the market, employee training and development has become a critical aspect of the strategy. And a well-trained and developed workforce can help companies improve their productivity by reducing costs and also improving customer satisfaction, thereby enhancing their competitive position. So the bottom line, as far as attaining competitive advantage is concerned, is that firms that are able to sustain their competitive advantage in the business markets are the ones that constantly add value to their employees. And by adding value, you are essentially differentiating your workforce with the predominant employees that are found in the business market. And it is this initiative that can help you to have what we call employees or individuals with distinctive capabilities. So distinctive capabilities in this context will mean that the knowledge and skills of your workforce is scarce in the market where you are operating. And if it is scarce, it means you can constantly be producing goods and services which your competitors will struggle to meet. And even when they try to replicate it, they can do so at they can only do so at a continuous struggle, whereas you attain it by just a single click of a button. So that is how competitive advantage is fueling continual training and development. Technological advancement, which is just like the first point I explained, but this is in a different balance. So the rapid advancement of technology is another reason why employee training and development has become increasingly important. And new technologies are being introduced constantly, and employees need to be trained to use them efficiently. And without proper training, employees may struggle to keep up with these latest technologies, which can hinder productivity and competitiveness. So it will be a fruitless or a useless venture to integrate technology into your work practices without being able to have your workforce utilize the technology. And it is only through training and development that these technologies can be adequately embraced and utilized by employees in an organization. Changing skill sets. Changing skill sets is also one of the reasons that can be attributed to the continual need for training and development. And as the job market continues to evolve, employers are looking for workers with new and diverse skill sets. So that is why these days, when employers are advertising for targeted applicants to apply for a given position in the organization, they always introduce additional skill sets out of the norm that they expect everyone to have. So you may come across certain clauses like the applicant must have maybe a bachelor's degree. Then they will add that having a professional certification may be an added advantage. Again, they may also add that having a master's degree may be an added advantage. Now, the reason why they may be requiring for some of these additional and diverse skill sets is that if you go for the normal skill set that every organization is subscribing to, you may not have individuals with distinctive capabilities that can help you outcompete your rivals. It is only when you are able to put together individuals that have varied knowledge, work experiences, and skill set that you can actually forge a thriving workforce. So employee training and development in this regard helps to ensure that employees acquire the skills needed to meet the changing demands of their job. And this also ensures that employees remain relevant and valuable to their organization. Employee retention. So when we talk about employee retention, it seeks to drive home all the various initiatives and strategies that can be used to not only recruit and select employees into an organization, but can equally be utilized to incentivize these employees to work continually for an organization without leaving to join competing organizations. So retention means you are able to retain the employees through some form of incentives. Offering employee training and development opportunities can help companies to retain their employees. And employees are more likely to stay with companies that invest in their personal and professional growth. So when you make training and development initiatives very much open to your employees, irrespective of the level that they occupy and the position that they also hold, then it will communicate directly and indirectly to them that we have their well-being at heart. And for that reason, they will also reciprocate. Hey, reciprocation. They will reciprocate by becoming loyal employees to the company. So this in turn can reduce turnover rates and associated costs of hiring and training new employees. So when we say it will reduce turnover rates, if you're able to maintain your core workforce for a longer period of time, except in instances where individuals may be going on retirement, then it means you are doing something right. And that will save the money that must have been incurred in hiring people to replace them, and also money that could have been utilized to train and develop existing employees. Okay. So that is it. Now, let's make progress. The last point that we are also going to look at is compliance. Compliance. And I think I articulated this very well when we were treating. Which topic was that? No, it wasn't this class. Okay, I think it was my other class. Now, in this current day and age, there are certain regulatory and occupational health and safety. So there are regulatory and legal requirements that certain categories of companies are expected to meet before their licensing and certification will go through. So let me use a typical example. Those of you that are familiar with the mining industry, in order for them to secure their ISO certification, and this is also particularly true about the oil and gas industry. So beyond the extractive industry, the oil and gas industry also have that thing in place. So what this means is that periodically they have to be running health and safety programs that are tailored to be exposing their employees to reduction of accidents at the workplace. Now, it is a statutory requirement, and it is actually a legal requirement to be running these programs frequently for their employees because of the prominence of accidents that are particularly recorded in such sectors. For that reason, training and development is also strategically utilized to address some of these legal and regulatory requirements. What it means is that you don't have to sit down for your license to be taken before you come to the known that you should have run a safety program for your workforce to expose them on how to use their PPEs, and as how to use the right boots and protective clothing when they are working at the workplace. Okay, so for the compliance bit, training and development is becoming strategic because it helps industries to meet regulatory and legal requirements, which, if forfeited, can also affect them in losing their certification that allows them to be in operation. And even in our normal service sector, okay, one of the regulatory requirements, and it's also legal, is that periodically we have to be exposing employees to how to handle fire emergencies. So these days, in fact, they're part of the way when it comes to the implementation, that is where we fall short. But these days, I find people from the fire departments, the fire service security apparatus, going around companies and checking whether they have the rights, what can I say, fire extinguishers, yeah, whether they have the right number of fire extinguishers and whether these fire extinguishers are also properly displayed at vantage points where they can be utilized during fire emergencies to handle some of these things. Now, I would not be surprised if some of you do not even know how to operate a fire extinguisher. And this may be very much dangerous when there is a fire emergency and you are the only one around. So some of these regulatory requirements expect that as much as possible, every member of an organization should be knowledgeable about how to use some of these tools or equipments so that when it becomes necessary and you are the only one around, you can contain the situation until other people come in to help you. So that is the compliance bit, which is driving organizations to strategically use training and development to achieve certain imperatives. Any questions so far? Any question? Right. If there are no questions, then so does any of you know how to operate a fire extinguisher? Apart from those working in the security services. So let me, Alberta Ando. Alberta, do you know how to operate a fire extinguisher?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Are you just saying it to save your face, or you are actually telling the truth? Anna Ifwa, do you know how to operate a fire extinguisher?
So I'll come so teach me. I'll come so that will teach me how to operate it.
Adejebi, do you know how to operate a fire extinguisher?
Not really, sir. Not really.
Into a drive time. I don't find out when they just talk about it.
Say, I will just run away.
And that is what we are trying to avoid. So Obit is Juliana Sally, do you know how to operate a fire extinguisher? It is something that your organization must take it up and work seriously towards it. Because when fire emergencies occur, and fire a for no bar, of course, more company will be telling lies, say, oh, you're training your money now on it, and we even have some. But sometimes we'll be checking another. It is even empty. There wouldn't be any gas in it for you to use. All right, so let's make progress. New employee training programs. So we are going to look at how training and development initiatives can be strategically tailored to capture new entrants. And by this, we are going to look at training and development initiatives not only being utilized and I say not only being organized for individuals that have been in the company for a very long time, but it must equally capture individuals that may be joining the company for the first time. So the first avenue that training and development can be tailored to capture new entrants strategically is through orientation programs. And I believe all of us are working or we've worked before, so we pretty much have an understanding of what orientation means. It simply means that you are deliberately introducing newly hired employees into an organization for them to understand how business is actually conducted and the structure or setup and culture within which business is conducted. And during orientation programs, particularly the detailed ones, attempt is made not only to expose them to how business is conducted, but rather to indoctrinate them. Indoctrinate simply means you will be introducing them to what you expect them to do and how you expect them to do. And you will also be filtering out how it was previously done elsewhere, which the company is not interested in utilizing. So that will be indoctrination. Now, so why has it become a strategic way of capturing new entrants to hit the ground running? While new hire orientation programs can attempt to assist new employees in their transitioning into the workplace, if the programs were not developed in tandem with any strategic objective or in concert with other human resource programs or critical operational areas of the organization, then they often do not have a significant impact on the new entrants' ability to fully understand the entire organization and their place in it. So orientation programs these days is not just a 1 day or a 1 week activity where you are shown your desk, who you are supposed to report to, who you can consult for assistance, and so on and so forth. But it is deliberately carried out for the employees to understand why they were contracted or hired in the first place and the contribution that they expect to bring to the table. This may mean that you may have to take them through how the services, the goods and services you are providing to customers is even developed. And by taking them through this process, they will understand every fine detail that goes into the production of their goods and services. and also know where they can actually help the company to flourish. And by so doing, they will end up understanding not only the fine details that comes with their product, but they will be in a position to sell it well to their customers. So I'll be demonstrating it through a particular case study by Black & Decker very soon. And ideally, new employee orientation programs will teach employees not only about their jobs and their organizational culture and strategy, but also how the individual jobs are critical to organizational success. And critical in the sense that you must be able to visualize the contribution that you as an individual you are bringing, and by taking you out of the equation, how it will affect the fortunes of the company. Now, once you're able to visualize the instrumental role you are playing in the company, then the orientation program has attained its feet. Orientation training, sometimes called onboarding, should allow employees the opportunity to ask questions and interact with those providing information, as well as facilitate the development of a new network of work relationships for employees. So that is the time all the misconceptions the new entrants are having have to be clarified. They don't have to go with some unanswered or issues still bothering their mind. And once they are able to cancel out all their confusions after the orientation program, then they will be in a position to sell the company well to customers. But if it happens that these individuals are even having questions themselves that they cannot answer, and they are not also getting anyone to help them understand these things, then how will they be in a position to sell it to their customers, especially if they are churning out not only services, but products too? So if you are supposed to market a product and you do not even understand the utility of the product, then you won't be in a position to sell it to others. All right. And that is what orientation programs must strategically be tailored to do as far as new entrants are concerned. Someone should please read this particular case for me, the case of training new employees at Black & Decker. Who would like to volunteer to read? Oh, anyone can read. Oh. Now we're so main part of answer. Oh, even the man also private makan. Okay, Alberta, go on.
Remember one kind.
My voice mood, no.
Man voice in Sokola.
Oh,
So the first name is 1,000 or 1,000.
I said more. Yeah, 1,000.
1,000, okay.
Depending on the secondary school you attended. Which marker 1,000?
1,000 Maryland-based tool manufacturer Black & Decker B&D has developed a new employee training program that literally puts employees to work. College grads who gain entry-level professional employment in sales with B&D traditionally received their training via a tray-ring binder that provided information about B&D products. New employees would study and learn the material to assess them with their selling. Establishing creditability was not part of the training equation, and many trainees never even touched the products they were selling, let alone use them. Black & Decker has recently revamped its sales training for new hires to combine classroom training, online courses, and most important, a training floor where new hires engage in hands-on learning about construction and tool use. This program, a component of Black & Decker University, enrolls 100 to 200 new sales and marketing employees annually. B&D University has a staff of 15 employees and an annual budget of $3 million. As part of their training, sales and marketing trainees take an online course that explains the 4 basic applications of tools: cutting, removing, fastening, and making holes. They then go to work in a product training area where they must use the tools to build things, such as roofs, moldings, and stairs. Such experience allows them to go to retailer and fully explain product features and benefits. As a result of its program, Black & Decker has drastically reduced turnover, sent out more credible sales staff, enhanced the Black & Decker name, and reported higher employee satisfaction and loyalty.
Okay, so let's read it one more time, and this time around, pay attention to the fine details that are in it as far as the strategy they are using to tie in their new entrance is concerned. And when I say strategies, the various training methods and processes they are taking them through in order to make them good representatives of Black & Decker Company. So take it one more time.
Towson, Maryland-based tool manufacturer Black & Decker, B&D, has developed a new employee training program that literally puts employees to work. College grades who gain entry-level professional employment in sales with B&D traditionally received their training via a tray ring binder that provided information about B&D products. New employees would study and learn the material to assess them with their selling. Establishing many trainees never even touch the Black & Decker has recently revamped its sales training for new hires to combine classroom training, online courses, and most important, a training floor where new hires engage in hands-on learning about construction and tool use. This program, a component of Black & Decker University, enrolls 100 to 200 new sales and marketing employees annually. B&D University has a staff of 15 employees and an annual budget of $3 million. As part of their training, sales and marketing trainees take an online course that explains the 4 basic applications of tools: cutting, removing, fastening, and making holes. They then go to work in a product training area where they must use the tools to build things such as roofs, moldings, and stairs. Such experience allows them to go to retailer and fully explain product features and benefits. As a result of its program, Black & Decker has drastically reduced turnover, sent out more credible sales staff, enhanced the Black & Decker name, and reported higher employee satisfaction and loyalty.
Thank you very much. So before we even proceed with the analysis of the case, let me quickly project to you the products that these have you come across their products before? Black & Decker. It's sure someone who be, but maybe in a different brand. So can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
And so Black and Decker,
Yes, sir.
these are some of the tools that they manufacture and sell. So you can imagine working in their marketing departments and you've been tasked to sell this tool. In fact, these days they do a lot of home appliances ranging from cafe mixer to blenders to fridges and all that. And you can imagine, say, you've been asked to sell this particular handheld drill machine to another person, and you yourself, you don't even know how it works. How will you sell it? So that is the rationality behind their tailor-made training program. Now let's go back to the case. So can you tell me the problem they were facing as a result of the old training method they were utilizing to orient and prepare their new entrants? Who can tell me the problem they were facing as a result of the old strategy they were using to train and develop their new employees?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, better.
Sir, to me, I will take it from establishing credibility was not part of the training equation. And many trainees never even touched the products they were selling, let alone use them.
Okay. So when you say this, what does it mean? Let's say it in simple English.
For the old employees, I will say that they never touched the product. They didn't even knew how to use it.
Exactly.
They just sold it.
Exactly. So the training program that was being utilized for the new entrants was previously not exposing the employees to understand how their own tools that they are selling can even be utilized. So if you don't even know how to use it, how will you be able to sell it to someone else? Okay, so that was a problem. And there is also another problem. Who can tell me? If I don't have a not just say this semester, there was also another problem associated with that old style of training and orienting their new entrants. Who can tell me? That one too is quite obvious. Oh, someone, at least one or two of you should try something and then we will see if you are on the right path.
Hello there.
Eric, go on.
Please, will it be, they say traditional, the BND, the new employees receive a traditional, they say the traditional training via a trail ring binder that provided information about the BND product or something like that.
No, it will not be that one.
Oh, okay.
That one. So someone should also try and let's see.
Hello.
Alberta. Yeah, Alberta.
So let me try. So they go and then they go to work in the product training area where they must use the tools to build things such as roofs, moldings, and stairs. So after their training, the online training and other stuff, they use it physically. They also go to the field and try their hands on before
Okay.
they sell it.
So what you just said is actually a solution to their old way of training employees, which was not giving them a better understanding of the things that they were going to sell. So, okay, let me ask the question again.
So let me see. Will it be this one too? New employees would study and learn the material to assist them with their selling. Is that new employees?
No, not that
study
one.
And learn? Okay.
Not that one. So you listen to the question again. I'm asking the problems which were cropping up and as which were arising as a result of the previous training strategy Black & Decker was utilizing. And the previous strategy was simply to give them few days training without necessarily helping them to understand the products they were going to sell. And it was apart from not being able to sell it well, it was also causing a particular problem for the company. Ceremony. Is Francisca here?
Yes, sir.
Oh, why is slow, son? What do you think will be the other problem? Okay. So what do you think will be the other problem that has been addressed by the new training strategy?
So learning how to
Okay, we're joining in change. Maybe you still haven't settled in well. So Juliana, do you want to say something? And I say, my cry. Cecilia. Anna.
No, sir.
Anna.
Sir, please.
Christopher. Stephanie.
The question again.
You mean the question again? Hey, inti ade we abeza sankasa na mobe. I am asking that if you read the case in its entirety, there were two main problems. In fact, it could be more than two, but the glaring ones are two, which the company was facing because of the training program they were previously utilizing. And this training program was not actually exposing the employees to understand how the tools work. For that reason, they were not able to sell it well to others. Martha. Hello, Martha. Hello, Martha, go on.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello, go on.
Sir, please. Was it the increase of turnover that was
It's
reduced?
turnover. That thing is there. Turnover. If you are saying as a result of its program, Black and Well Decker has drastically reduced turnover. So implicitly, the argument is that they were incurring a lot of turnover, and this is possible, and it is actually the case, because when you yourself, you don't know how to use a particular tool, and you are not able to sell it well to customers, you will become frustrated along the way, especially if you are not able to meet your sales target. So definitely, you may think that you are not well cut out for such a working environment, and for that reason, you may either the company will jettison you, or you may have to resign and go to a new sector where you may flourish. So that is it. The problem is staring at you in your face and branding. Okay. Now, who can tell me the new training initiatives which Black and Decker brought on board to address the problems they were previously facing? So what are the training initiatives they introduced?
So combining the classroom training and online courses.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Look at it well. I say, you need to pay attention to the detail.
I'm trying, engaging them in hands-on learning about construction and the use of the material.
Exactly. Yes. It is the hands-on bits that became the game changer. The hands-on bits allow them, the hands-on bits will help you to experiment and simulate with the tools. And once you get to understand how the tools actually work, when you are selling it, you are not going to sell it as someone who has been mandated to do it, but you will sell it as someone who has actually used it in one way or the other. And that is the part they meant, that they actually use it for basic applications such as cutting, removing, fastening, making holes. Into why then when you use the strengths and the weaknesses. And for that reason, if you are selling it to someone else who may need it for one of those functions, then you can intuitively and candidly project the strengths of the tool. What I said. All right, so this is just by way of introducing how orientation programs can be extensively utilized to enhance the degree to which new entrants hit the ground running and develop much comprehensive knowledge about the goods and services that they are churning out. The second one is job rotation. So training programs can also be strategically tailored to target new entrants via job rotation and asset rotation. And rotational programs can have an added benefit for new employees, particularly those that have limited full-time professional work experience. So we are talking about individuals that may be freshly cut out of the universities that may have done just 2 months or 3 months attachment program as far as their working experience is concerned. Now, such people, if you leave them to work on their own after just 1 week orientation program, they may not flourish, in the sense that the department where you are pegging them, or the unit where you are locating them, may not be well cut out for them as far as a fit between their knowledge, skills, and abilities and their responsibilities over there is concerned. So rotational avenues may be a fine way of actually identifying departments or units within the organization which the new entrant may have an upper hand to flourish, and other aspects of the company where they may struggle to fit. Rotations allow new hires to sample different kinds of work within the organization, and sampling here simply means they are experimenting or they are having a feel of what goes on in every department. And this helps them to determine an optimal fit between their needs and interests and those of the organization. So these rotational exercises, at the end of the day, will help not only the HR, but the individual new entrant to also know departments where their interests and expertise actually fits, and those that they may struggle or they may find as a mismatch when they are actually placed there. Practically, rotational programs can be very much expensive in the short run because we are talking about transferring the person from one job to the other or from one department to the other and experimenting to see where they will have an optimal fit. But the competition out there and the cutting throats, turbulent business environments will not be waiting for you to finish these experimentations before you actually fasten your seatbelt to come out and compete. It will actually be working against you. And you may not be getting value for money during the short run when you are doing some of these experiments. Okay. But in the long run, they may represent a long-term investment in employees who can provide a significant benefit to an organization. So individuals that end up getting the opportunity to be rotated across the length and breadth of an organization actually end up having a comprehensive understanding and appreciation of what happens in all facets of the company. So such people end up becoming problem solvers because they analyze problems not only from the unit or department where they are originating from, but they are able to see it from the bigger picture. Okay, and that may be a good way of fine-tuning problem solving in your company. Employers also benefit in that rotational programs, which allows more flexibility in work system. So when the working environment is structured to embrace rotation from time to time, the company stands to benefit in the sense that when the responsibilities in a particular department dwindles or it goes down, and you still want to get value for money, you can actually transfer them to other units where their skill set may be readily needed. And for that reasoning, that level of flexibility will mean that you are always reducing idleness or idle hands in the company. Rotational programs also have a benefit of minimizing chances that specialized knowledge will be vested in only one individual. So these rotational programs, as I mentioned earlier on, will end up exposing the individuals that transition through it to have a comprehensive understanding of bits and pieces of all that is transpiring in the company. And for that reason, it will end up diffusing knowledge and skills across the entirety of the company. So in addition to helping develop a knowledgeable and flexible workforce, rotational programs can enhance retention because of the versatility they offer, allow employees to pursue more opportunities within the company. So you end up having individual employees that are very much versatile and cut out for multiple units in their company and not only restricted to one department. And when this happens, you can always get the best out of them when they are becoming redundant in their current department, and they can actually add more value to the company by moving elsewhere. So that is also another avenue that you can strategically introduce training programs to new entrants. Now, from here onwards, we've done it in training and HRD development. We have done it extensively. Now, the planning and strategizing of a training program for an organization is a 4-staged activity. So when you were in level 300, I indicated that the 4 stages include needs assessments, training design, training implementation, and training evaluation. Now, because the book we are using places much emphasis on strategic HRM, the 4-stage process is going to emphasize more on the development of the objectives and measures of the company. And it is going to merge the designing and the implementation. So design and delivery has now been subsumed into one box. Other than that, it is essentially just like what we did when we were in level 300. So the planning and strategizing of any training or HRD intervention for an organization is a 4-staged activity involving these assessments, the establishment of objectives and measures, the delivery of training program, and the evaluation of the training program. And this has been parsimoniously summarized with Exhibit 9.1, which you currently have on your screen. So under the assessments or the training needs assessment, we conduct 3 main levels of assessment, which is organizational level assessment, task level assessment, and individual level assessment. Organizational level assessment is where an attempt is made to understand how factors within the organization, especially the organizational culture, the organizational resources, and the organizational objectives can be forged in such a way that the stimulation of training in the organizational context can propel the company to be on the path of success. So that will be at the organizational level. Then there is task analysis, whereby an attempt is made to understand the core duties and responsibilities that is expected to be carried out by employees, and how these core duties and responsibilities can also be fine-tuned to help the organization achieve its strategic imperatives. Then thirdly, there is the individual level analysis, or which we call person analysis. In fact, at level 300, we're calling it person analysis, which focuses on the micro level analysis of how individuals can be incentivized through training and development to enhance the attainment of the long-term aspirations of a company. And this is usually done through their performance appraisal to see their performance problems and how these performance problems can be corrected through training. So that will be the needs assessment or training needs analysis. And the information that will be derived from the needs assessment will be utilized in designing the objectives and the measures of the training program. So a deliberate attempt must be made to make sure that the objectives of the training program actually addresses the performance problems that will be identified as a result of the individual level analysis, the task analysis, and organizational analysis. Now, having identified the objectives that the training program seeks to address at the end of the training intervention, that information can also be utilized in conjunction with the needs assessment information to design a training program. And in terms of the designing, we are essentially thinking about the sort of environments or classroom that can, the environments or setup that must be made available to implement and carry out the training program. We are also thinking about who will be the best facilitator for the training program, whether we should bring someone from outside, that is an expert outside the company, or we should utilize someone that is also an expert in the company. And all these decisions will be contingent on a number of factors, whether we have someone in-house who has the know-how to deliver the program. And if we do not have the person in-house, then we will have to rely on the expertise of someone outside. But that also will mean that we have to be particular about not exposing our trade secrets to such a person. So all these fine details will have to be considered during the designing. Still on the designing, we also need to consider about the materials to be used and the possible use of technology to enhance the delivery of the training program. You also need to be thinking about the scheduling so that you don't carry out the program at a time at the rush hours of operations. And I say, at the time where the operational hours is at its peak, or you don't carry it out during weekends where individuals may be interested in meeting their familial or personal obligations. So the scheduling component is the exact time that it has to be conducted in order to get the rapt attention and focus of your trainees. All these things must be thought through during the design. Then once it is well figured out, you can go on to deliver it. And in terms of delivering, it can be done either on the job or off the job or online. On the job simply means the training program is going to be carried out at a time where the normal working activities is what ensuing. So it means the job will be done at the workstation or the work sites, and individuals will be using the normal tools and apparatus or materials that they use in their world of work. That will be a typical on the job. Now, off the job may also be utilized if the training program, when it is carried out on the job, may interfere with productivity, and it may also affect organizational operations. So for that reason, if you want to maintain continuity of productivity, then you can utilize the off the job, which means you'll be working at an offsite. And this may take the form of delivering training program in a classroom, in a conference center, in a simulated environment which employs some form of virtual reality. So in these days, when you are training drivers or you are training astronauts, and I quite remember I mentioned something called vestibule training, whereby astronauts and pilots are actually exposed to the rockets and the airplanes that they'll be flying in a simulated virtual environment. And these simulations are made in such a way that all the turbulence you will feel when you are actually flying a plane or a rocket or driving, you will experience them in this virtual world. So there will be all the pedals, the joystick, and what have you that you will have to work with. So that could be a typical example of the job, whereby employees will be trained in an environment that may be deliberately programmed to mimic their real working environment. And the off-the-job may also be some form of classroom interactions, conferences, discussions, workshops, and so on and so forth. That may be done outside the place of work. Then there is the online one where the individuals will be exposed to a computer-based technology, which may contain the program that can be learned at their own pace. So this means that there is some level of flexibility, and depending on your level of readiness and your trainability, you are likely to finish the program at your own pace. Then there is also the instructor-led online programs, which is just like what we are having. The instructor-led online programs will mean that you are getting an online education, all right, but you will have to be, the pace with which you learn will be determined by your instructor. Unlike the self-paced ones where, for instance, if you are learning how to improve your typing speed using a computer-based program such as Mavis Beacon. I don't know if some of you are familiar with that typing program, Mavis Beacon. That one will mean that depending on how well you learn and improve upon your typing, you may end up using, let's say, a month or a 2 or a 3, and so on and so forth. So those are the specific methods that can be utilized in delivering training program. Then there's also training evaluation. After the conduct of the training program, you will need to give the company that sanctioned the program feedback. You also need to give the feedback of the trainees or the employees. And as a facilitator, you also need to get feedback on whether the program was successful or not. So the most famous evaluative framework that we utilize when it comes to training evaluation is the Kirkpatrick evaluative framework, which utilizes a 4-level approach to training evaluation, including the reaction, the learning, the behavior, and the outcome. We did it in level 300. And I'm sure some of you will be saying, say, you lie back. This is the first time we are hearing. Any questions so far? Any question? Any question?
Hello.
Yeah, yeah, hello.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, hello. Good morning.
Sir, with the compliance.
Okay.
Okay, I want to ask if apart from the safety and the fire management that is used for training and development in the organization, the compliance, does it also include some of the policies where it speaks, where it talks about sexual harassment and the other things in the office?
Yeah,
Is it also part?
Yes, they are all part. In fact, the fire one was just an example for you to relate to the explanation of the compliant bits. Okay, there are numerous of them which, if we decide to list them, we may not even finish today. So there are so many aspects of organizational operation that management must make sure they comply with. Other than that, later on, when it comes to the known of the regulators that the employees were not sensitized or exposed to such knowledge, then you have no basis to be holding them responsible for flouting a particular rule. So those sexual harassments, equal employment opportunity, and what have you are all part of the avenues that training can be utilized to sensitize your workforce.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other question? But are you okay with the explanation? Because detailed explanations are here, but I have summarized all of them so far with what I said. Do you want me to take them one by one? Or you are okay, because this one you did it in level 300 and I know you people are sharks. Hey, are you there or you are busy?
Yes, sir, we are there, sir.
And I'm asking a question, when am I mute? So are you okay with the explanation? So say, sir, hey, Francisca, I can say, and then I just say, you actually need help. All right. So let's take them one by one. As I indicated, the planning and delivery of a training program is a 4-staged activity, ranging from the training needs assessment. So this is the first stage, assessment. Then the development of the objectives and measures for the training program. And these objectives will become the things that you will set forth to utilize the training program to attain. In other words, the objectives will tell you where the training program is going and how you will know you have arrived when you get there. Okay. Then the design and delivery has been matched. Then evaluation. So let's take it one by one. When we say needs assessment or training needs analysis, it essentially refers to the process of determining whether it is necessary to correct a performance problem with a training intervention. In other words, when you conduct an assessment to understand why performance of employees is dwindling, you may unravel a lot of factors. And some of these factors may be corrected through training, whereas others may be related to managerial lapses. So if the problem of non-performance is because of managerial lapses, such as lack of motivation, poor lighting system, poor working conditions, then the bottom line is that training will not be a panacea to address those problems. On the contrary, if performance problems are identified through needs assessment as arising as a result of employees lacking some skill sets, or employees lacking some knowledge base, or employees lacking some experiences, employees being out of touch with the present way of executing their job, then that is where the training comes in. So the reason why we conduct needs assessment is to identify how the long-term or strategic objectives of the company can be attained through organizational resources, through the responsibilities that have been compounded in the task and through the individual initiatives. And by doing this assessment, you can actually understand where the standard that is expected to be there and the the reality which is on the ground. And this will help you to bridge the gap between the standard performance and the reality which is on the ground. So at the assessment level, an attempt is made to do organizational level analysis, task level, and individual level analysis. At the organizational level, the training is considered within the context of the organization's culture, politics, structure, and strategy. So you're essentially trying to understand at the macro level the sort of actions and initiatives that must be put in place to help the organization strive towards the attainment of its objectives. And this may reside in the culture that has been created for people to operate within. The climate. When I say climate, I'm essentially referring to the atmosphere within which employees are expected to work. Whether it has to be a cordial and friendly atmosphere, or it has to be a more strict and restrictive atmosphere. We are also referring to the sort of resources that must be put in place, both human and non-human. And it is these resources that have to be forged and harnessed towards the attainment of the organizational objective. So when we are doing organizational or strategic level analysis, an attempt is made to understand the standard culture, politics, structure, resources that must be there to help the company succeed. And the one that is actually there now. So if you compare the standard and the actual and you realize there is a discrepancy, then you're trying to overcome it through what? Training. The training will help propel the employees to get to a pedestal where they can actually overcome it. So that will be the organizational level analysis. Then the task level analysis. You can think about task analysis as a job analysis, whereby an attempt is made to understand the duties and responsibilities that comes with every task cut out in an organization. And what's the knowledge, skills, and abilities one must take in order to flourish in executing such tasks. So we are simply talking about the job description and job specification associated with each task. If you pick the job description now, that is where you will understand the duties and responsibilities associated with every minute task in the company, whether it is an entry-level portfolio or it is a strategic level portfolio, or whether we are talking about security men, cleaners, or whatever. Now, once we identify the core responsibilities or duties, then it is also important for us to identify the knowledge and the experiences that one must possess in order to succeed in accomplishing these core duties and responsibilities. Now, once this is done, you will get a clearer picture between the ideal or the standard which has been cut out in books and what you are realistically or currently having, so that when there is a gap, and the gap will arise if, for instance, you, in terms of the job specification, you actually need individuals to be having professional certification in addition to their first degree. But you have individuals with first degrees without professional certification. That means you have to quickly use training intervention to address this gap, because your standard, which is being recommended by best practice as a benchmark that can help you to attain your long-term aspirations, is requiring you to have certain qualities, but you are currently not having them. And that is how training can come in to address outcome of task level assessment. Then there is individual level of assessment, which considers the people to be trained. So at the individual level assessment, we are extricating the assessment to the micro level, and we are considering individual employees. And this requires an analysis of their existing level of knowledge and skills, as well as factors relating to their preferred learning styles, personality, interpersonal styles, interacting with others, and any special needs individual employees might have, such as physical, mental conditions that might need to be addressed in the design and delivery of the training program. So these three levels of analysis are what we utilize when it comes to needs assessment or training needs analysis. And let me quickly add, as far as the individual level of analysis is concerned, is that we practically utilize information from performance appraisal to identify the expectations of employees, how those expectations can be enhanced through training, and performance problems that are being encountered by employees and how they can be corrected through training. So that will be a typical example of individual level of analysis. And this means that whereas my performance problem may be corrected through, it may be corrected through you kind of saying through an on-the-job training program. For another person, his performance problem may be corrected through classroom training program. So individual particularities may result in differences in the targeted training program that we need to carry. So, as far as organizational, task level, and individual level analysis are concerned, can be captured with these exhibits. When you go, you take your time to look at it. Now, the second aspect of the 4-stage process to the planning and strategizing a training program is the objectives. And when we talk about objectives of a training program, they are essentially the benchmarks that tells us where the training program is trying to go and how we will know if the training program has arrived. In other words, it tells us what the training program seeks to achieve and how the training program can actually be evaluated to ascertain whether learning has taken place. So the objectives components of the 4-stage training and delivery program is an instrumental part of the whole process, because if you don't get it right, then you may end up delivering a training program which is redundant and not actually addressing the needs of your targeted trainees. So you have to get the objectives right, and that will even incentivize people to patronize the program. When they start attending the program, they will know they are actually going to learn something that can enhance their performance, and their company will also be incentivized to release such employees to come for the program, because at the end of the day, when they do cost-benefit analysis, they will realize they are getting higher returns for having invested in a training program. Now, after needs have been assessed, objectives for training activities must be developed. And these objectives should follow directly from the needs assessment and be described in specific measurable terms. And that is why we often say the training objectives must be what? SMART. It must be specific. measurable, it must be attainable, it must be relevant, then it must also be time-bound. So that is the SMART objectives. Now, measures should be stated in terms of both desired employee behavior as well as results that are expected to be followed such behavior. And these measures will become the eventual benchmarks that will be utilized when it comes to the evaluation of the training program to verify whether learning has taken place. Now, specific training objectives can be derived from the performance deficiencies noted in the performance feedback process. And that is what I meant by using performance appraisal outcomes during the individual level analysis to inform what you seek to achieve with a training program. Now, when you do it this way, and such employees show up for the training program, they will actually know that if they pay attention and focus on the content of the training program, they will actually end up becoming more valuable to their company in the sense that they will be overcoming their performance deficiencies and they will also be improving their efficiency and effectiveness on the job. So both individual and group training can be developed around these measures, depending on the idiosyncrasies you intend to address. If these idiosyncrasies are individually oriented, then you will have to do the training program for individuals, which may end up becoming much more expensive for the company to maintain. But if these peculiarities are something that is familiar or pervasive among your workforce, then you can be organizing the training program for groups or departments, or maybe the majority of the company's workforce. And in that regard, you will be killing several birds with one stone. Now, the design and the delivery. So design and delivery essentially seeks to consider the various aspects that must be put in place to ensure the training program does not face a lot of obstacles when it comes to its implementation. So some of the things that you have to think through during the design is which category of employees should be considered and allowed to participate in the training program. In fact, the first thing you need to consider is whether the performance problem you are trying to address can actually be corrected with training program. And if that is so, then you have to think about which individuals are actually experiencing these performance problems so that you factor them and think about how you are going to tailor-made the training program to address their needs. So beyond identifying the targeted people that needs to be trained, you also need to consider who will be the best trainer or who will be the best facilitator for the training program. This is very much important because you don't want to come across as wasting people's time and having a facilitator who does not know his left from his right. You want to come across as someone who is very much serious and who means business. So a decision of the facilitator will not only enhance the knowledge base of the individual going through the program, but it will also set the stage for future programs in terms of whether people will recommend the program for others that intend to go for similar programs. So if you get a facilitator who knows his whereabouts and who also understands what he needs to do and how to impart knowledge and improve performance deficiencies of employees, then you are actually meaning business. Now, decisions of who becomes the suitable trainer will be contingent on a number of factors, such as whether you are going to, whether you have the expert in-house. Now, if you have the expert in-house, then you can actually identify these experts and task them to organize, design, and deliver the program for you. But if you don't have some of them in-house and you have to bring the expertise of an outside person, then it is prudent that you outsource it for them to organize it for you. And in outsourcing it, these experts can be contracted to come and organize it either on the job or off the job. And this will also be contingent on the setup you have at your workplace. So if, for instance, you don't have the setup to integrate the technology that these experts may want to utilize, then you may have to use their own facility. They are quite to say, teaching students on how to use an online learning management system, that, like the Moodle or the e-learning platform. But you yourself, you do not have a computer lab, even though you may have experts. So what you can do is that you can contract NIIT or IPMC to use their facility and experts to deliver it for you. So that would be a typical example of reason why you may be going outside. And sometimes if you do the comparative analysis, you may realize that you may not have the financial muscle to design and develop the program in-house. And if that is the case, then you may have to cut by outsourcing it to an outside vendor. Another reason may also be that time is of essence and you don't have the luxury of time to design and implement it. For that reason, you may have to outsource it. Now, if, depending on the factors propelling your decision, you may end up running the program on the job or off the job. So if it is on the job, it has its repercussions on who becomes the facilitator and the sort of information you expose to such a facilitator. If it is off the job, it also has its own implications. All right. Two critical issues must be considered in the designing of training prior to delivery, and this include cutting down interference and also designing the program to enhance transfer of learning. So what is interference? Interference essentially refers to any foreknowledge that trainees may have, which may impede their smooth assimilation of new knowledge during the training exercise. So interference occurs when prior training, learning, or established habits acts as a block or obstacle to the learning process. So what you knew previously become an impediment to you adding on to your knowledge. Anyone who learned to drive an automobile having an automatic transmission and later attempted to drive a manual or standard transmission probably experienced interference in their learning. Because if you compare how the pedals and the gear system of automatic car is to that of a manual system, there is a vast difference. So if you learn driving by an automatic car and you later on have to learn by the manual one, you will encounter a lot of interference, because automatic one, once you start the ignition, the gears will be done for you. All you need to be applying the brake and the accelerator, and you are good to go. But with the manual one, you will now have to be doing things on your own. For instance, the changing of the car gears will have to be done by you. Now, you will now have to be applying the friend is saying the UTS the change with no cry friend is saying. They're very good. You now have to be applying your feet on the clutch to be freeing the gear for you to be changing from 1 to 2 or whatever. And that automated system you may be used to, frustrate you in experiencing some form of jerks, because automatic one the only try to man now take your but if you can't lose sight of the fact that you need to be instinctually changing from one gear to the other as far as the manual one is concerned. And if you don't take care and you don't apply the pedals very well, you'll be experiencing some sort of jerks. Okay, so that is a typical example of how interference needs to be contained. Now, the second critical issue that must be addressed in design is transfer. And transfer here, we are referring to the degree to which trainees will be able to transmit what they learned during the training program onto the job and apply it thereafter. So transfer refers to whether the trainees or learners can actually perform the new skills or use the new knowledge on the job. In other words, transfer is the extent to which the trainee or learner is able to transfer the learning to the actual job setting. Many training programs that are conducted away from the work sites have been criticized for their lack of transfer because of the conditions under which the employees have been trained are vastly different from those in which they actually work. And in this day and age, it will be a huge blunder for you to organize a training program that does not embed in it some form of experiential or practicalities to help connect the theoretical and conceptual issues with the practical aspects of the job. So obviously, it is inefficient to conduct training and receive no benefit from it in terms of employee job performance. And those responsible for the training need to ensure that it provides maximal transfer. And how can you do this? You can intersperse, especially if you are doing it off the job or even if it is on the job, as much as possible, intersperse it with experiential learning strategies so that individuals will leave the training ground with some practical knowledge that can be utilized when they go back to their world of work. So the delivery of the training should anticipate any interference that might be present. And let me quickly add that the interference could also be in a form of background noise. So if you are working or you are learning in an environment where there is a lot of noise, as in having the classroom or the workstation very much noisy, like a marketplace, that can also be a form of interference. Or citing the training program in a hotel premises that may have some sort of distractions. When I say distractions, you are all adults. You should know what I mean by these distractions. And that is where others will be catwalking and be confusing you here and there. So you have to organize the program in a more controlled environment that will be free from some of these interference. Okay. Now let me see if I've left anything else. Okay, so transfer can be facilitated by delivering the training in an environment that simulates the actual job conditions as much as possible. So what we are saying is that if the requirements of the training program demands it to be conducted either on the job or off the job, you can employ simulations for people to mimic what they are expected to do at the end of the training program. And once these practicalities are embedded in the training program, at least they will end up learning a bit or two, which can become useful for their day-to-day operations. In some cases, it may be feasible to provide direct on-the-job training where the employee is trained under the exact working conditions in which he or she will be expected to perform. So if that is the case, then you are good to go. However, in some cases, on-the-job training may not be feasible. And that may be in social situations where the working environments, when you conduct on-the-job training program, will bring the production onto its halt. And you may not want to cut into productivity and profit motives of the company and also end up dissatisfying customers. So under such circumstances, delivery of the training should then be replicated in an environment that has working conditions similar to that of the one you have in your workplace. So airline pilots do not learn to fly by going up in an airplane. So when you are training pilots or astronauts, you don't take them to the plane and start it for them to fly it for you to see. Rather, they use what we call vestibular training programs, which is more or less like simulations. And these days, we use these simulations a lot in even videography. And what these simulations does is that they have an environment that has been virtually programmed to give you the same experience that the workplace. So if you are a pilot, the cockpit of the pilot will give you. And all the turbulence you experience when you are flying the plane, anything that has to do with it will also be programmed into this simulator for you to play with it, practice with it until you get to a point where you have actually mastered it. And it is at that point in time there where you now be transitioned onto the flying of an actual plane. The same can be said about drivers. Most driving schools now have their own simulators that they use to train their clients after conducting the theoretical bits. So their training, when it comes to the training of airline pilots, involves an extensive exposure to simulated flight conditions on the ground, which tests their learning and ability to react to a variety of simulations, including crisis situations. So when there is the need for them to handle engine flame outs, situation, how do you handle all those things? They can simulate all these things in a virtual world for you to master it before you are actually taken to the plane. And the same can be said about the training of astronauts, okay? On-the-job training may also help maximize transfer, but it is obvious it is not feasible for all jobs. And in addition, off-the-job training, and I say off-site training, allow learners to focus on their learning by minimizing interruptions and distractions that might take place in the actual work environments. So when sometimes we are doing on-the-job training program, you may have to be training, the trainees may have to multitask by focusing on the training program whilst also serving their customers. So they are learning by doing, but in the course of experimenting, they may end up not satisfying the customers. And these customers will not understand why you are going to experiment with them. And you may also experience a lot of interruptions, and which can affect your productivity. So if you want to deal with all these things, then you can use an off-the-job strategy. So an increasing amount of training is being conducted away from the workplace. And this sort of training utilizes techniques that attempts to simulate what happens on the job. Instructional techniques that facilitate such simulations involve the use of case studies, role plays, interactive and experiential methods, which I myself have employed them a lot, from time to time. That is why I ask some of you to be reading for me. I ask us to go through a particular case, and I interact with you to see how you can internalize some of the things we are learning. Okay. Now, individuals being trained are asked to assume a role and responsibility that they might have on the job, and they perform accordingly. So that is it about the on the job and off the job. Now, let me quickly touch on the online one. Then I will invite questions. So online one not simply means you are employing some form of technology to conduct the training program. And many organizations have an entire training library that consists of skills-based related training and information knowledge-based learning that have packaged into computer-based instructions. Now, universities and colleges are also offering an increasing number of courses through what they call online degree programs, which GCTU students, and you already know the benefits and the challenges associated with it very well. In fact, Momo is a good case of this online way. Now, the online program, they take two forms. We have the instructor-led online training programs and the self-paced training programs. Instructor-led simply means the trainees will be the training program will be facilitated by an expert who is knowledgeable about the subject matter and who will be leading the trainees on what to learn at what time and at what place. So the trainees will be guided by a facilitator. That will be the instructor-led online training program. Then we have the self-paced training program, whereby the content and training materials are already made available on a computer and also in cloud. And trainees are expected to subscribe and start utilizing them at their own pace. So that is why we call it self-paced. The self-paced simply means that we may start it at the same time, but given my own constraints, I may be attending the classes once in a week, whereas my colleagues may be attending it 3 times or 5 times in a week. At the end of the day, we are all heading towards the same target, but we are utilizing our own self-pace to do it. Okay. So that is it about the self-pace and the instructor-led training programs. Any questions so far? So I saw one hand up. I think, was that Stephanie? Stephanie Esibel.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Stephanie.
Sir, I wanted to ask a question on the job training.
Okay.
So there is this situation that I want like enlightenment a bit on it.
Okay.
So if, let's say I'm in a department and I'm being trained under a supervisor. Let's say I'm working with an HR manager in my office. Okay. Then after some time, there was an opportunity. Then I got to have the opportunity as an HR officer in the same organization, but different, let's say, subsidiaries. Then there is this
oh, Stephanie, your line is
like
breaking.
staff data. Hello, sir.
Yeah, can you recap it again? At a point, I couldn't hear you well.
Oh, okay. I'm saying there's this situation that I want you to elaborate or explain more on it. If, okay. Okay, it's possible. So there is this situation. There is this lady who was working with an HR manager. Okay. So along the line, she got an opportunity and also gave the role of an HR officer. Okay. Then one day, the head office requested for an information from the HR officer where she didn't have at that particular time. So she has to liaise with the HR manager for that information. The HR manager told her that she is not like capable for such information because she has not been trained on the job.
Okay.
So I was like, the person has been working with you, let's say for 2 to 3 years for now. Now there is this opportunity and the person has gotten it. Get the person the information so she can also submit it to wherever they are requesting for the information. Now the manager is saying the person needs to be trained again. I understand they should be onboarding for the new role, but where she said she's not trained for such information was where I didn't understand. So I want to know that after being with an HR manager, after being trained for 2 years, is there any training again in case you have the opportunity to occupy such a position? Thank you.
Okay, all right. So this one, you even answered yourself that training is supposed to be an ongoing activity. And although I do not have much details to what actually transpired and informed the HR manager to be withholding such information, I am presuming that the content of the information that the HR officer was requesting for did not, the HR officer did not have the right clearance to actually get such information and also be transmitting it. So that may be a reason why the HR manager was actually expecting the individual to be well equipped and cleared to be very much ready for such information before it will be disseminated.
So, sir, the issue is she was saying, as at the time the lady was given the role as an HR officer, she has not seen the job description for the role. So with that, she can't like give the information to the HR officer. But then again, too, she's aware that the head office is requesting for that document because it's an unprofessional for the HR officer to call the staffs like individually to ask for such data, since their data is already there.
Okay. So once again, I don't know much details to it because I'm hearing your side of the story and there may be more to it. That is why I don't want to be passing judgmental comments about it. But whatever happens, in whatever way you look at it, training is supposed to be a continuous activity. And if they were actually rolling out their training programs in a strategic manner, and that is what we are actually doing. If they are doing it in a strategic manner, they should have forecasted that such an HR officer will be needing such information in future. And so if there is the need for them to equip the lady to be in a position to have the right security clearance and the right competencies to handle such information in a more mature manner, they should have worked for it. They should have worked towards it. They shouldn't have sat down until it now becomes something that is being required of her before they are now drawing her attention to it. So I think there are a lot of blunders and bad practices going on, which they need to find a way to handle internally. So that is what I can say. My learned colleagues, can you also add something to help Stephanie understand it better? So anyone can also contribute to her question. Hello, George, are you there? Hello, George. Hey, so George,
Hello.
George, George, you are there.
I'm here.
So do you want to add something?
What I'll add is maybe where the information that the HR officer was demanding, maybe.
Hello, George.
She has not gotten to, or she has was decided not to give it to her.
George, can you repeat it again? At a point, your line was breaking.
As I said, what I'll add is maybe the information that the HR officer, the one who had the opportunity to occupy the place, and
the
information that she was requesting for, maybe she has not gotten to a point where she needs that information, or she has not been trained on that information. That's why maybe the manager was finding it difficult to release the information.
Yeah, and that is what I also think. Francisca.
So, what I could say is, you see, sometimes in some of these organizations, when some informations are needed, it ought to pass through the main boss, like the HR boss, him or herself, before it goes to the officer. Yes. So, well, there could be possibility where it just, the mail or whatever went straight to the officer, which the manager is not pleased about. So things that should come to him or her before it goes to the person. And also, they say sometimes it's not good to use yourself as an example, but let me use myself. I was at a position where when asking for information, a manager taught me, sometimes I just go straight to the thing, just like that, without giving details or anything. So one day, one of our managers was like, Madam, come. So when I went, he sat me down and started teaching me some things that, okay, as long as you are here, when you are asked this thing, this is what you have to do. Either you refer the thing to your manager or you send a mail to the person. Can you inquire from this particular person? Because you are not in position or in the position to deliver or to do that particular assignment.
Exactly.
And if they request you do that, they will train, or we will train you on that particular thing and how you will even push that information to those people who needs it, because you need to structure it, put it in this way, do it this way. Exactly. So it helped me a lot. Yeah. It helped a lot. So sometimes we might be in a position and we think that, okay,
yeah,
one, but no. So you seek help from the Oboros.
Exactly. All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, TA Francisca. So I think that settles it. Now let's look at aspects that I've left out. Evaluation. So the evaluation that we've done it, I think we did it in level 200 and level 300. The evaluation of the training program is also very much important because it is that aspect of the force-based exercise which will help you to know whether your training has successfully attained its objectives or it failed to attain it, and if there is the need for you to modify the program for future initiatives, or there is the need for you to eliminate the entire program altogether. So the evaluation component will help the employer, the trainees, as well as the facilitator to know whether they were successful or they were not. And according to Kirkpatrick, it can be carried out in a 4-stage level: reaction level, learning, behavior, and so the last one is outcome, or the results. Do you remember we did this thing when we were doing training, human resource planning and development? Do you remember? Hello. At the AJB, David.
So, hello, sir.
Do you remember we did this one?
Yes, sir.
I thought Monday I pack up the books now from the plantain seller. So it's just like what we did. Is it last year or last year? Around this time last year. Now, so at the reaction level, now before I even talk about the various levels, The evaluation of a training program can take the form of either summative or a formative evaluation. Summative or a formative evaluation. Who can help me explain the formative evaluation of a training program? So this one, we did it last time. Who still remembers what it means to be conducting a formative evaluation of a training or an HRD program? Formative, summative. I think it came in exams.
And I'm mentioning Jordan Papa.
So no one remembers anything about it. Oh. Well, then someone should just try. Just try. When we say formative evaluation, what does it mean? Just try and let me see. Hey, someone.
Sir, let me try.
Yeah, Stephanie, go on.
Is it the one you said like this one? It helps. It helps you to know your strengths, or like to assess where your strength is and your weakness. Then you work on it, like you balance them.
Okay. So you have the idea. You really have the idea. So thank you very much. Formative evaluation of a training program is, like she mentioned, is utilized to identify the strengths and the weaknesses of a training program before it comes to an end. So this may require that you even pilot the program with a selected few employees or trainees to get some sort of feedback. And based on the feedback, you will now recalibrate the training program to actually address the needs of your targeted audience. So formative evaluation will mean that you will not sit down for the training exercise to come to an end before you conduct an assessment to ascertain whether learning is taking place. Rather, you will, from time to time, whilst you are either developing the program or you are delivering it, from time to time, you will be testing to get feedback from your trainees to see whether they are in sync with what you are delivering. So a typical example that I usually utilize in my teaching is that I conduct a lot of quizzes. And these quizzes or assignments will be giving me feedback to know whether you are learning or you are just compiling my lectures. It will also give you, as a student, a feedback, particularly if you have been learning all along, to know whether you are understanding what you are learning or there is more room for improvements. Now, once these sort of testings are conducted before the training comes to an end, so in academia, we say the semester comes to an end, it will mean that you will have the opportunity to initiate some corrective actions that can enhance your understanding and your knowledge base of the training content. So that would be a typical example of a formative evaluation. So quizzes, 10 papers, testings can all be a way of conducting formative evaluation. Okay. Now, summative evaluation. Summative evaluation simply means that The training assessments is targeting the completion of the training program, which means that you are not going to conduct any form of assessments. The infant said this semester, a typical example of summative evaluation will be end of semester examination. If I decide not to conduct midterm exams, if I decide not to conduct quizzes or give you assignment, but I wait until the end of the semester before I assess your understanding of the content of my class, then I'm using summative evaluation. Is the distinction clear now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, I'm on for. Yeah, no more go. I please tell mommy. So, for formative and summative, the 4 main levels of evaluation and training program according to Kirkpatrick. So the reaction, the learning, the behavior, and then the outcome or the output. Reaction measures. Reaction measures near level 1, and which seeks to project the level of satisfaction or the general impression and our perception of the trainees as far as the training delivery and content is concerned. So reaction measures whether the employees liked the training, the trainer, and the facilities. And it's usually measured by a questionnaire. We don't say you training program now. Generally, the trainees whether they liked what transpired during the training program to get feedback. That sort of feedback can be construed as a level 1 assessment, which is reaction. The trainer can also administer a survey or a questionnaire to solicit for the views of the trainees as far as its content is concerned. And based on that information, they can utilize it to improve upon what transpired. Now, if employees have less than favorable reactions to the program, it is unlikely that the employees will have an interest in the program, or the employees may not want to recommend it to others in future. Rather, a favorable reaction may guarantee the continuity of the program. Now, the fact that you are getting a favorable reaction does not mean the training was effective. It means the delivery was superb, but you will now have to test whether the superbity of the training delivery actually resulted in learning. So to ascertain learning, you need to go beyond the reaction to actually conduct some form of testing. So learning here will be an attempt by the trainer or the facilitator to verify whether there has been a relatively permanent change in the cognition, affect, and behavior of the trainees as a result of the training program. Now, learning measures whether employees know more than they did prior to undertaking the program. And knowledge-based training can be measured by tests. Skills-based training can be measured through demonstrations or simulations, and if work sample testing. And if employees did not learn anything, then obviously we can expect no change in their behavior on the job. As an employee, the focus was only on item 13 and only socialization. Any Kofodia flowers that is being displayed over there, and not to the core of the course now, then we can't expect learning to have taken place. And for that matter, we will anticipate them to have a lot of challenges when it comes to transfer of learning. So for any change to occur as a result of training, trainees must have learned something. Then the third one is behavioral measures, whereby we are not only interested in testing the knowledge base through quizzes and examination, but we also want to see the degree to which the employees will be able to transfer what they have learned onto the job and practically mimic it. So these measures allow organizations to assess not only whether transfer has taken place, but also whether employees are able to do anything differently or think or solve problems in a different way than they previously did. And it is at that point that you can say the company's investments, the company is getting return on their investment or getting value for money. Behavioral impacts usually are measured through performance appraisals. So if previously the employees were having a lot of performance problems, we expect the problems to subside. And we expect performance to become excellent. And this is done by those who are able to witness or observe the employee behavior. So this feedback can be derived from your supervisor, or the facilitator may visit the work premises to observe whether you are actually imparting what you learned during the training exercise. And if there is no change in behavior, we cannot expect employee performance to be enhanced. So for instance, let's assume a training program was organized to reduce accidents at the workplace. So how to reduce accidents at the workplace? Now, when we get to these behavioral measures now, an attempt will be made to observe whether the trainees are using the PPEs, that is the personal protective equipments, ranging from their gloves and their protective boots. And if they are using those ones, then we can expect accidents to reduce. But if they go for the training program and they still come back and do their old ways of operating, that is working with their bare hands and bare feet and what have you, then you can't expect accidents to reduce, because the accidents are expected to reduce when you start utilizing your PPEs. Okay, then the last one is evaluation or the outcome. So evaluation of results looks at the overall outcome of the training and the impact that the training has had on the productivity, efficiency, quality, customer service, or any other metric of organizational performance. So at this point in time, when we get to the results session, we are trying to use a number of metrics. And these metrics are indicators that show whether the company is doing well or it is not doing well. These metrics may take several forms. It can be assessed by whether the volume of sales is going up as a result of a training program, whether the productivity is going up, whether customer satisfaction is going up, and so on and so forth. So when the company is able to adduce figures from these metrics, and they are able to do a comparative analysis by juxtaposing previous figures on these metrics with the current figures on the metric, and there is a much appreciation in the figures, then we can say the results is favorable, and now the company's return on investment, which we call ROI, is also what? Favorable. It is important to know that results of training programs. So the results of training programs are not often immediate. Training programs may be ongoing and or involve employees developing a level of proficiency which takes time to achieve and master. And although result-based measures of training are usually the most meaningful and economically significant for organizations, undue reliance on them may cause key decision makers to abandon training programs that do not produce immediate short-term results. So the points I'm trying to drag home here is that sometimes it may take a number of months or days before you can actually correlate these performance metrics of the company with the training program that employees attended. In other words, you will need to create an ample room for people to practice what they have learned before you can actually see the fruitful side materializing. And so if 1 week after the training program, you expect customer satisfaction to be unparalleled, then you may end up concluding that the training program was not successful. But if you give yourself some time, let's say a month or two, and you are not still seeing any fruitful results as far as some of these metrics are concerned, then there is a cause for concern, a great cause for concern. And on that note, I'll bring my lectures for today to an end. If there are any questions, you can ask me for clarifications. Or if you have any examples, you may share. Other than that, I think I have even over-explained